Welcome to another edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview presented by Riverland Roofing. I'm Neil McCready, joined as always by MPW digital football expert Pete DeWeese. It is LSU week. Ole Miss and LSU, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, Saturday, 2:30. Let me rephrase, as early as 2:30 on ABC. Probably will not start right at 2:30. Both teams undefeated, 4-0. Ole Miss 2-0 in the league. LSU 1-0 in the league. The Tigers have a win over Florida in Baton Rouge. The Rebels, of course, have wins at Kentucky and at home against Arkansas as they get ready to meet. LSU ranked 4th in the country coming into this game. Ole Miss ranked 13th in the country coming into this game, which means nothing. But those are what the rankings are. And big game for both teams in Oxford. It was announced earlier on Tuesday that these two teams will meet in Oxford again next season. They're permanent opponents. Then they'll go to Baton Rouge in 2027, Oxford in 2028, back to Baton Rouge in 2029. And then if you'd like to guess the 2030 schedule, that's on you. You can figure it out. I don't know. But those next 4 seasons have been announced. So first of 2 years in a row that the Rebels and the Tigers will fight for the Magnolia Bowl in Vaught-Hemingway. Pete, how are you?
Doing well.
Good. We'll jump into this, talk a little Ole Miss after the Rebels blowout of Tulane. If you watched Pete's Pigskin Preview a week ago, he hinted at it pretty strongly, talked about personnel differences at the line of scrimmage. If you did what I do in football games, which is put your binoculars or your eyes on the lines of scrimmage the first 2, 3, 4 series, you knew that game was not going to be a competitive game, and it wasn't. Ole Miss dominated both lines of scrimmage against a really well-coached Tulane team that just didn't have the personnel. So we'll dive into a little bit of that, and we'll obviously jump into the Tigers, a really interesting game with a very talented LSU roster coming to town. First, we're brought to you by Riverland Roofing. When it comes to durable, high-performance roofing, Riverland stands above the rest as a licensed, insured, and GAF Master Elite Certified roof replacement contractor with more than 60 years of combined experience. Riverland specializes in roof repairs, replacements, and maintenance for both residential and commercial properties. Riverland Roofing combines expert craftsmanship with cutting-edge roofing technology to ensure long-lasting protection for your home or business. Their team of manufacturer-trained specialists delivers top-tier service while staying within your budget, whether you need a minor roof repair or a complete roof replacement. Riverland provides custom solutions tailored to your needs. It's riverlandroofing.com. All seriousness, you did a great job last week, obviously preparing people like me for that game. I was watching the line of scrimmage. I saw what you said I probably would see, and there it was. A lot of talk about quarterbacks. Lane Kiffin said on Monday in his weekly press conference, Pete, that if Austin Simmons is 100%, he'll be the starter. Of course, the if he's 100% is the key phrase in that sentence. What did you make of that? What did you think of Trinidad Chambliss' play against the Green Wave?
He's been really good. You know, I mean, it's hard to argue with his production 2 weeks in a row. I think the most impressive thing is the fact that he's protected the football for the most part. He hasn't really put the football in danger very much. His legs are obviously a weapon that not only in the run game, but when things break down in the passing game, he's got the ability to get himself out of the pocket and do some things. But he's been impressive down the field. You know, they didn't throw it down the field a ton against Arkansas. They kind of peeled it back a little bit and took the top off a few more times. I thought in this game against Tulane, and I think some of that was to grow the package and show that he can do it, and I think some of it was about mismatches. Ultimately, you know, the game plan again, it was a smart game plan with a good script where they were going to put him in chances to succeed, and they didn't have to recreate to find success. They found success, you know, in the system, and just found different wrinkles and different ways to do things. And so I think, you know, a credit to Trinidad and his preparation, but also to the coaching staff, whether it be Charlie Weiss Jr. or Lane Kiffin or any of the analysts on that staff. I mean, I know last year prior to leaving Oxford, I think Joe Judge played the big role in the quarterback room. You know, whoever that is in that capacity pouring into that room right now, they've done a great job of making sure he was prepared.
Yeah, it's
Not just against
Joe
Tulane,
and
but
Dane Stevens, and I mean it's a talent. That is a we talk about the talent on the field. That is a very talented coaching staff, but they're
it is.
the people that sort of manage Fisher Ray, the people
Yes.
that manage that offensive, the quarterback room, kind of the offensive game plan room. There's a lot of brain.
Yeah,
A
they
lot of
you
brain
know
power.
that's the way the NCAA has changed your ability to compile a staff and the kind of open door now to bring in analysts that can really wear a lot of hats and serve in a lot of roles. And I'll say this, and I feel like we talked about this a little bit last year with some of the additions that Ole Miss had prior to last season. But kudos to Keith Carter and the administration for providing the resources and opportunity for Lane to build a room like that.
Yeah,
Because it certainly plays a factor, not just in, for a long time it was about scouting, right? Who has the bodies and the positions and the eyes to scour the country and watch the tape and find the players. And that's still an important part. But now you have so many different resources available. You're limited with how many hours you get with the kids, right? So the more you can do to surround the kids with knowledge and with people that can be with them when they're in the building and serve them is certainly an advantage. And Ole Miss has certainly done a good job of that. And so kudos to the staff on their preparation, but also kudos to him as a player to prepare like he's a starter each and every week. And even leading into that Arkansas game, maybe he knew all week, but certainly the word that we were getting, from through the media and from different sources is if Simmons could play, he was going to play, right? And so that's a tough position for a quarterback to be in, and the kids obviously handled it well.
the defense after that Arkansas game, they openly talked about how they were challenged by Kiffin, by Pete Golding. They were not pleased with the performance that they put on film that night against the Razorbacks, a game that almost got away from them, and they knew, hey, you can't play this way and get where this team wants to get. You can't get to a CFP playing like that defensively. It's not going to happen. Looked like they really answered the bell. I thought they played a much more disciplined defensive game against Tulane.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that were, just ready to burn it down and cash it in regards to the Ole Miss defense after that Arkansas game. And I think the second half was a more of a tale of who they think they can be and who they want to be from the way that they played in that game. But I thought that last week, the talent was not the same as the talent that was on the field from Arkansas. But that's not, there were still quarterback at Tulane was not accurate on Saturday, and I've got some thoughts about that. But he's still an athlete and he's still a good player, and they still do a great job of play design. And even watching it back a little bit yesterday, I thought that their plan was good. I think that Ole Miss came out, and there were very, very few busts. If you go back and chart the bust, whether it's in coverage or in the run game against Arkansas, I have no doubt that number's well into the teens, probably the 20s. If you go back and chart the same thing against Tulane, I bet the number it's sub 10. It may be sub 6. There was one clear coverage bust that I saw, and it didn't matter. There was pressure on the quarterback, and he got out and ended up scrambling the opposite direction. But there was one coverage bust. Outside of that, I thought they fit the run pretty well. They certainly understood who was responsible for quarterback. They did a much better job playing that. And one of the big things to me, and I'm not inside the system, and I don't know 100%, what the calls are, but Pete Golding wants to play variations of man coverage as much as he can. And that's kind of been his MO, and he does different things with the front to allow him to do that. I thought they really simplified things in this Tulane game. They picked and they chose when they were going to be really aggressive. And that allowed their box to stay intact and probably play with more confidence. And I think that's a major reason that you saw them have more success, in particular in the quarterback run game, slowing down that read option offense. But they did it by playing some zone variations on the back end, doing some split field coverage, but relying a little bit more on zone. And I thought that they really handled it, like I said, for the most part, really well. And I think that one reason you do that, is one, I think that they felt like from a talent standpoint that the matchups were there for them to be able to do that. But I do also think that that they wanted to slow down, they wanted to simplify, they wanted to give the players a chance to see the formation and communicate more, and maybe not have to make so many adjustments on the fly. And so I thought it was an effective strategy. I'm curious to see on Saturday against LSU where they live. Is it a little bit more safe, a little bit more slowed down, a little bit, or is it a little bit more aggressive? I think from a talent standpoint, the jump from Tulane's offense to the offense at LSU is quite a bit different. Right? Yeah. You don't have a quarterback that's necessarily a designed runner, but he is capable of pulling it down and making the most out of the opportunity when you give it to him. He doesn't do it much, but when he needs to, he can. But just the skill that's around him and the play up front, I think there's going to be times where Ole Miss is going to have to take more chances defensively, and it's going to be about when they take those chances, can they hold up in the structure and still execute?
Anything else you want to dive into with Ole Miss before we shift to LSU?
No, I think that so much of this game, and we're going to talk about the LSU defense first. And I think that a lot of this game, because they are a good unit and there is a ton of talent on that unit, and Lane Kiffin has not been shy about talking about it. And to your point today in your article about, what he said and maybe what he meant. Yeah. The subtle jabs that, hey, you built it, right? This is your last dance. You've paid all this money. It's your turn to feel the pressure. Yep. Right. And I think after fielding that pressure for so much of last offseason, into the season, and through the season, I think Lane getting the chance to kind of pay some of that back was probably felt good to him. So, to me, it's just going to be about how can Ole Miss operate in their system, regardless of who's at quarterback, and find the opportunities that do exist against both sides of the ball for LSU.
Yeah, I'll say this before I just throw it to you. The one thing I am fascinated by is to watch. A year ago, LSU's offensive line was this elite group of super talented players. Ole Miss's defensive line was the same. I mean, everybody went to the NFL. Everybody on the LSU offensive line pretty much went to the NFL. They had an early first-round pick. Ole Miss had Walter Nolan. A year later, it looks like both of those units are still trying to kind of figure themselves out. They do some things. They flash. There's been talk this week about how the Ole Miss defensive line hasn't gotten home. They're not getting a ton of sacks. A year ago, they got 4 sacks a game. This year, they're getting 1 sack a game. It's a little bit of a fall off. LSU, on the other hand, a year ago, that offensive front really protected Garrett Nussmeier. This year, they're struggling with that.
They are struggling a little bit more. They are, and I'm curious to see as well. That they are massive up front.
Yeah.
But there are times, especially with movement, where different defenses have given them some problems. And, Pete Golding is going to move the front. He's going to bring pressure. He's going to do different things. It's going to be about matching that up with his back end and his secondary support and his coverage structure. And, I'm curious to see. Ole Miss is going to want to get home and get to the quarterback more successfully than they have as they continue to get down this road and deeper into conference play. And so how they're going to do that, especially if they start to simplify things on the back end, is going to be interesting to see, because somebody's going to have to become that guy.
And we'll touch on it at the end, but I think this game got even bigger today. You hate for people to get hurt. At least I do. I know you do too, because you coach football. You don't like to see kids get hurt on your team, on the other team. No one wants to see that. But John Mateer with Oklahoma has a broken bone in his right hand, out at least 4 weeks. Ole Miss plays there in about 4 weeks, and do the math. You're trying to get to 10, and that was one that you put in the super iffy category. And don't get me wrong, it still is. Oklahoma's really talented on the defense.
Really talented.
But Oklahoma's not going to be as good without John Mateer as they were with him. And so that does factor into the calculus a little bit. I think this is just a monumentally big game for Ole Miss and probably for LSU too, if you're talking about making the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And look, I mean, even just from the standpoint of having a top 5 opponent come to town, you don't get a ton of those opportunities, and here you get it in a rivalry game, and you get it at a point in the season where it's early enough that a loss isn't going to kill you, but at the same time, it also could be a chance to really stamp the season and really get the ball rolling in the right direction and hope that some things kind of fall your way. So absolutely a huge game in Oxford on Saturday. It is you factor in the Ryder Cup and the ball games this weekend. It is a big television weekend around the country.
That's for sure. The floor is yours, my friend.
So I really wanted to take some time. Most so far this season, we tend to go back and really watch a decent amount of Ole Miss tape. And I really thought that this week I would just really focus on this LSU football team. And so we're going to start talking about the LSU defense. Nussmeier gets a lot of credit, a lot of praise, excuse me, as a highly touted player with a lot of ability. But at the end of the day, LSU, even in their best years, they're a program that thrives on defense, in my opinion, and have been for a long time. And they're no different this year. Last year they weren't great on defense. As noted by Kiffin, they went out and made some major portal acquisitions. They've got a few guys that returned on the roster, some real talent and ability. And so for Ole Miss, it is going to be crucial that they go out and not allow the LSU defense to dictate the line of scrimmage and not allow them to dictate down and distance. They're a defense that they thrive on opportunity, and if they get you into favorable down and distance situations where you become predictable, they're just so skilled and so talented, and they have the ability to cause a lot of problems. So I think, having success on first down, which is always an indicator of ultimate success. One thing that coaches chart at the upper levels of football is what they call P in 10, possession in 10. So not just the importance of first down, but the actual first drive of a football game. Study shows that if you're successful with a certain efficiency rating on possession in 10, the first play of a drive, that the chances of scoring goes up exponentially based on how much you gain on that first play. So controlling not just possession in 10, but first and 10, early down and distance, I do think is going to be important for Ole Miss. And one thing you look at when you see this LSU defense is there's a ton of talent on the field at all 3 levels, but there's opportunity there if the coaches and the players on the field are dialed in, and in particular, if the quarterback is on the same page as the play caller and can recognize some of the difficult things that this Ole Miss or that this LSU defense will present. So we're going to start with a handful of clips from LSU versus Florida. Then we're going to move to a few more from LSU versus Clemson, focusing on their defense. And then we're going to flip over to the offensive side of the ball and just mirror the same thing. Looked at the 2 biggest and best opponents that they've played this year. And obviously there's a lot of people that would tell you that both Florida and Clemson are underperforming right now. But from a talent standpoint, and a roster standpoint, they're the best teams that this LSU team is played. So I think it's a good gauge for us. One of the things that, with LSU is they do like to play a lot of man-to-man coverage, but they do not always show a true man-to-man look from the jump. Okay. Here they're showing a 2 high safety look with nobody walked out on top of the slot receiver. Now, typically, if that's the case, you're either going to get a late rotation where this safety is going to come down to play man-to-man, or you're going to get some type of a zone to that side of the field. Well, that's not the case. LSU has enough faith in their secondary and in their safeties that they feel like they can play from depth and still play man to man. They're showing man to man.
Which one's Halsey? Is that him on the top? Do you know?
I believe so. I can't see their jersey numbers right here on this clip. Okay. I think that's here on the top, but there's indicators for the quarterback to know this is man to man. And Florida does some things from a formation standpoint to help the quarterback identify it. One, the corner to the wide side of the field, to the bottom of the screen here, is clearly a man-to-man. Not only is he pressed, but his eyes are 100% locked in on the receiver. But the top half of the screen actually gives you even more indication of man-to-man. Florida has taken their tight end, and they've moved him all the way out to the widest guy. As a response, LSU has taken a linebacker out there to play man-to-man on him, and now that puts a corner man-to-man on this slot. So as a quarterback right now, the two high safeties are trying to tell you I might be getting some type of a zone look, especially with all of this space between my slot and the nearest defender, okay? But the fact that the linebacker is walked outside onto that tight end is a heavy indicator that this is going to be a man-to-man look. So right here on this play, Florida is going to come out with just a simple, quick game concept. Lagway's able to see it. They deal the ball. Now, this is a great tackle by the safety, but you can see he's sitting flat-footed, and he is ready to go drive and make the tackle. Ole Miss is a big fan of running RPOs with hitches across the board. This is the type of situation where you want the quarterback to see the hitch, throw the hitch, get the ball out quickly, and try to make a safety miss in space. Now, they don't miss a lot of tackles in space, but opportunity is there. Ole Miss does throw quick game, very similar to what Florida does here, where the quarterback's got an easy chance to get the ball out of his hands just like he does. But that is a first down now that ends up now getting you into a second down and 2 situation. So again, favorable opportunity for the offense. For Ole Miss, it's going to be, regardless of who is at quarterback, can you identify the space and can you find that space? Because they are and will give you that space. So Florida does the same thing here. They start again, tight end out wide. This time the linebacker stays to the box. He does not widen out. That indicates that it is either a zone coverage or that he's potentially part of the pressure, and now the man coverage would be coming from depth, okay? They're going to motion back the tight end back in right here. He's going to show this motion. Again, another indicator of what might be coming for the from the defense. You notice as it happens, there's not a heavy rotation, so now this is recognition that they are playing some version of zone. One thing that they love to do at LSU is if you give them a reduced split into this boundary, they will blitz this corner off the edge quite a bit, okay? If you play with wide splits, it makes it very hard to blitz that corner. So one thing to look for as an Ole Miss fan is if they will allow this corner to bring his alignment down closer to the box, how often does LSU send him in the pressure? That is typically hard to account for in both the run game and pass protection because that's not where you're training your eyes as an offense from a protection standpoint, okay? So here's the indicator. Tight end moves in. Looks like it's going to be zone coverage right there. There comes the crash by the corner, and what they're doing with him is they're doing what's called cover down. So typically you would slant these two guys inside, and his crash would come off the edge. What they're using him for here now is he's becoming part of the run fit. They're going to bring 44 upfield. He's going to take A gap, and now when the corner comes, they're going to bring him through B gap. If you're not extremely disciplined in your run fit, you end up with an unblocked defender in the gap, similar to what happens right here. Now, LSU is supremely athletic up front. I mean, Florida does not block this poorly at the point of attack. The center, the guard, the tackle are actually in good position. If the tight end can win his block here, you're looking at a decent gain for this offense. That tight end misses, and they allow the defensive tackle to kind of fall off and scrape back over, and the running back's not able to make the cutback. If they handle that block by the tight end better, there is a crease to cut the ball back here, and you find space to run the ball on that Clemson defense. Now, you can really see that in the end zone copy, and I'm going to go to that in just a second. The other thing you want your quarterback to see, if you're going to run all of these hitches out here, your hitch to the top of the field right here, if they're going to give you this much space, you want to be able to throw that hitch that Lagway hands off right here. Okay, easy opportunity. Again, move the sticks, perhaps create an explosive with your receivers. Look at the same play from the end zone. Okay, as the tight end comes in here, there's the mesh. If they can handle right here, because 33 expands with the look of the motion, if they handle the edge rusher right there, the cutback lane would open up here, and it's you and the official before you get to the safety. Okay, the interior players do a decent job right there. You see the guard 77, the left guard by Florida, loses his balance. Otherwise, it probably looks more of a hole. But at the end of the day, if the tight end can handle the defensive end, handle number 6 right there, the opportunity to cut is going to happen, and there is opportunity to get loose in this run game. And that is one thing that I did find is, as good as this defense is, that they're not as dominant in the box, I don't think, as some of the better defenses that we have looked at on this program over the last few years. Okay, so now let's look again at the structure. Okay, safety start high, giving you the impression that it might be zone. They are actually going to walk into this. We just watched them bring a corner on the last play. They're here. They're now going to actually bring a safety. They're going to blow him through one of these interior gaps, and they are going to rotate their coverage behind it and get into a zone cover look. Okay? So here in the run scheme, it's a well-timed blitz. They're able to kind of manipulate the box a little bit. What you want to be able to see as the quarterback, and a lot of times in the RPO game and in the passing game, a lot of times as a quarterback, you're trying to evaluate who is the extra defender that it can add himself to the box. A lot of times it's going to be this guy, but your eyes will often start at the boundary safety, because the boundary safety is a lot of times going to give things away from a coverage standpoint. He's either going to show rotation to the field, or his eyes are going to be to the field, because that means he's going to be moving that direction based off of the release of it, especially if there's a third receiver. Okay, he may be tight with eyes on the tight end, which tells you it's probably a quarters or some type of man-to-man look. Here, if you see this safety spinning down and you do not see the field safety getting to the middle of the field, you open up so much space behind them to potentially throw the football. Here, Florida hands this ball off. You can see Lagway's eyes are here on 7. If he sees and feels this boundary safety coming down tight and is willing to pull and hold on to the ball, you see all the space that's being developed. Now, you can get to that space from the field with this glance route like Florida's trying to do. You can also get to that same space from the single receiver from the boundary. And if that guy were to run this glance post right there, there is space there again to be exploited. So you have to do a great job. The secondary is so versatile. They're so talented. They give them the ability to do a lot of different things. So again, as you see it right here, Lagway gets the call. It takes him a second. He makes his check, gets them where they want to be. What you have to recognize is they essentially have, it looks like, 2 gaps open. That's by design. They're not going to leave those gaps open. So he's going to occupy a gap. He's off the edge. He's going to be here, and they're going to bring him late down. If you see him coming, there is so much grass to be found. Now, the truth is, the running back almost overruns it. There's still a crease. You're going to run on the linebacker. It's not going to be an explosive play, but there is so much space open in the middle of the field right now. Ole Miss has to, if they can catch them in these looks and get them in these coverages with these specific pressures, there is so much space to be found in the RPO and the passing game. Okay. Here's another look right here. Okay, going to show you another coverage look from the LSU defense. So they are going to push out right here. Okay, and they are going to show you this motion to get M to empty. Now, like I said a minute ago, if you give them a chance to bring a corner, they will, and they do like to bring a corner. So again, you're 3rd and long right here. Personnel has changed just a little bit. Extra DB. So now instead of a linebacker out here covering the tight end, there is another defender. But you can see that every DB on the field is looking at their receiver but one. And that's this guy right here, because he's about to become part of the pressure. Everybody else is playing man-to-man. That means that when he becomes part of the pressure, this safety is going to play man-to-man on him. So they're going to get into this man-to-man. They're going to rock him back. He's going to end up being the free defender right here, getting outside to that middle of the field. Okay? Again, get that pressure. Alert the hot route right now. If you have sight adjustments built in, if you have concepts built in where you can identify that and get the ball out, the space is there. Lagway sees it. I truly believe he sees it and he wants to throw this ball. His receiver, who is pushing vertical on a slot fade to the boundary, doesn't recognize the space, and Lagway has to wait. There's nowhere to go with the ball. He ends up panicking and just tries to get the ball out of bounds to save the sack. But again, space exists against this defense. It's about having your quarterback dialed in enough to identify and find the space that exists. And that's very easy for me to do retroactively on film. It's can you do it live in the chaos of the field of play? Okay, so this is the last one from this game that I'm going to show you. This is a 3rd and long. Okay, extra DB on the field right now. Okay, notice the corner's eyes. They're not locked in specifically on their receivers. They are going to rush 3 right here, or 4, and they show the impression that it may be multiple. They overload one side. They're going to rush 4, and they're going to drop into an old school cover 2, and they are going to try to protect the middle of the field as much as they can. Okay, linebacker does a good job right here, and Lagway ends up throwing an interception. Okay, the underneath route here on this 3rd and 10 is not going to get him the first down. What he has to do is either take his underneath and hope he can make a play, or come backside to his crossing route, where now you have your slot or your receiver matched up on a Mike linebacker. And that's where that ball has to go. He has to see, what he sees is this corner stays low and doesn't get high. So in his mind, that means he's going to be able to throw this corner route behind him, and he can get it in there underneath the safety. But this linebacker, because he's not threatened by anything inside, gets enough depth that he really squeezes that window and also protects the safety a little bit. If you can steer that safety to the boundary and isolate the Mike linebacker, there's your tight end or your slot in the middle of the field, again, bending into space with an opportunity to make a play.
That is such a bad read.
It is a so very bad read. This linebacker, nickel, whatever you want to call him, he makes a great play on the ball. The corner, number 3, is not that far from making a play. The safety's in position to break it up.
It's one really good defense. Can't go.
But even if he takes his check down,
he's going to get something out of it.
You've got something. He throws the one ball you cannot throw.
But I mean, look, I know we're not preparing for Florida. I'm just kind of blown away with this. This is DJ Lagway, who came into the season with a lot of hype.
Absolutely.
I mean, if and obviously I can't see his eyes, but it appears that he's locked in right there. He never even looks at his.
No, he starts his progression starts on the right. He locks in right there, and he never thinks about going backside. And here's the reality. When you throw cornerbacks, we talk to our quarterbacks all the time. We don't talk a ton about ball placement. Hey, this has to be on the inside shoulder. This has to be on the outside shoulder, unless it's like an underneath route, right? But when we talk about down the field throws, we talk about where your miss has to be, right? If I'm throwing this corner route to the outside, my miss has to be here.
Yeah.
It has to be outside, and it's got to be deep.
Yeah.
He misses inside here. Okay. If he misses outside, I'm not sure 9 doesn't have a chance to make a play. He's going to have to play. The safety's going to play through him. He's going to have to come down with contact and keep it clean, right? But it's just a bad miss underneath, and you cannot miss a corner route inside.
Yeah, I'm kind of blown away by it. I'm sorry.
No, I listen, and that's what you need. Whether it's Austin Simmons or Trinidad Chambliss, you need them to not have those bad misses, right? And you need them to find that space. So go back to the Clemson game. I watched the Florida one first. I went back to the Clemson one, and same thing. Space is there to be found. You've got to do your job and find it. Here they are, 3-by-1 look against the LSU defense. This is early in the game, okay? And you'll see LSU gets into a pressure. They have a simple concept going on the outside, and they have, his decision, Cade's decision right here is to take this option route. This Hoss wide juke is essentially what they're running right here. You can find it on your closest Madden console, right? You can go back and find Tom Brady running this for days. They're going to work an outside release hitch by the outside guy. They're going to work a slot fade or a seam, depending on the zone or man coverage. And the inside guy is going to attack right here, and then he's going to work to open space, wants to work inside, okay? And that's what he does here. That's where the quarterback works with the football. And there is a chance. There is space there that if the ball's clean and not batted, it has a chance. But what you really have to see here is, again, see the rotation. They're rolling into a cover 3 right here. He's getting here. The corner is held a little bit by the outside release. And this receiver gives a nice little move and then gets down the seam. And if Klubnik will just spot that ball right down the hash, right there, you were talking about early in the game, an absolute explosive play from this Clemson offense. But instead, it ends up a batted ball knockdown. You can see it a little bit from this side. Okay, linebacker, and maybe that is the ball he's trying to throw, and the defensive line gets his hand on it and messes it up. But there is space there to attack. It's about, again, processing at quarterback to find that space. Here's another example, okay? Look at the corner up top. His technique, his body language says man-to-man. His eyes tell you something completely different. Here he's going to come again on another crash. His eyes are inside, his body's showing man-to-man. Same pressure we saw earlier. End gets upfield, draw the tackle. The guard is thinking, I have to set here to the nose. He is not looking for this crash corner from the boundary. There it comes. He's going to expand to help against anything underneath. He's over the top for anything over the top. There it comes. The running back doesn't see it. You can see that here. If the running back picks him up, they're clean. The running back does not. There's the sack. Ole Miss has to be prepared for the corner blitz, how they choose to handle it in their protection scheme. They absolutely have to be prepared for it. What they're trying to get to here is a little simple read concept, okay? They are trying to send him deep to this opposite hash on a crossing route. They're going to have a dig behind him by the number 2 receiver, and they're going to bring a shallow from the single. So he's going to go under the linebackers, and he's going to try to attract them with his coverage and open up space for one of these over routes. Now, the safety to the boundary pretty much tells the quarterback backside that my number 3 guy on the crossing route is off the page. If he were cheated to the middle of the field and this corner's low, you like the crosser. Because that safety is hanging out on the backside hash, you know that it's very unlikely, unless something changes post-snap, that is where the ball is going to go. So really what you're trying to focus on and isolate here is this high-low right there, okay? If they can protect it, there goes the linebacker driving the shallow. There's the dig window wide open because the mic is chasing the crossing route right into the other safety. You have 100% what you want, but you have to be able to manage the chaos and manage the pressure from the secondary. And if you do, the dig is there. You also have this outside curl that if it's thrown in rhythm has a chance. Instead, on a 3rd and 8, it ends up being a sack and forcing a punt. Moving just a little bit deeper in the game. Okay. Again, going back to space does exist. Simple RPO, hitch RPO. Ole Miss is going to call it 10 times in a game. Okay. Crowded box. The quarterback can do the math. There's too many defenders in the box. Throw the hitch. LSU trusts their safeties to make the tackle. You have to, as an Ole Miss offense, be satisfied with the 5-yard gain. Anything outside of that or above that is absolute gravy. If you get a mismatch you like against press, even though this is called probably as a hitch RPO, the press converts to a vertical. And if you get the matchup you like, and they've talked all week, I'm sure, about if a favorable matchup exists, where it exists, then you take it. Good read, easy throw and catch. You again manage first down. Now you're looking at a 2nd and 3 for the offense as opposed to a 2nd and long, which is much better and much more manageable situation. Okay. Now here's Clemson in the red zone, and Clemson had so many opportunities in this game. They haven't been on fire as an offense all season long. I think anybody that's watched them at all can acknowledge that. And so here they have so many opportunities. Okay. Again, the box looks loaded. LSU is kind of still in their communication phase right here. Now, Klubnik chooses to take the boundary guy, and he throws a vertical to a receiver that looks like he's not expecting or anticipating the ball. Okay, if he works the 3 receiver side,
he's
got
to throw
the flat
there.
because you're man to man here, and then opportunity here to throw this little glance or slant route. The space exists for positive plays, right? He misses it he chooses to throw the single when he sees it. And it's the positioning of the safeties that tell him to do it. Don't get me wrong. Typically, if you cut the field in half, you get a 1-on-1, you're going to take that over the 4-on-1 that exists, especially if this linebacker expands. Okay. But sometimes you have to trust, especially because of the depth of the secondary right there. Just take your underneath throws, take your easy throws, take the high percentage throws, let them go be playmakers.
I mean, I've never played quarterback at the college level in my life, so I'm not judging Cade Klubnik here. He's got a much brighter future at quarterback in the NFL than I do. But is this him getting worried because he's gotten? This is later in the game. Is this, hey, I've been rushed a lot. I don't have a lot of time. I've got to make a quick decision.
Potentially. I mean, if you look at the box structure, you certainly are going to expect pressure. Situationally, box structure wise, you're absolutely going to expect it. I think he truly sees the 1-on-1 and says, I'm going to trust my guy and give him a chance. But, right there, the receiver certainly doesn't look like he's expecting it.
Yeah.
So here's the very next play. Okay. Again, now divide the field in half. They've gone into a sub package. There's more DBs on the field. Okay. Now you do have the safety over here. You don't want the 1-on-1 over here unless the picture changes. So even though it's 4/3 to the right side, he's going to go ahead and he is going to work that right side right here. Now, what's really nice right here is how they're going to disguise this coverage. Okay. They're going to end up getting into a Tampa 2 look. So from a traditional old school Monty Kiffin design, that means you're going to have 3 linebackers at or near the box that are going to be curl players. Your Mike linebacker is going to get deep, and he's going to get to the middle of the field. Your corners are going to play the flat, and you're going to have 2 deep safeties that aren't overly concerned about the middle because of the ability of the Mike linebacker to get deep. And when Monty Kiffin was in Tampa Bay, and they had guys like Derek Brooks that roaming out there at linebacker, they were able to get a lot of good things done. So here, that's what they're going to get to. Safety's going to expand. This guy's going to rotate to the middle right here. Your curl defender is already this wide. What that means when that rotation happens is, if you can see it, this space where he leaves is now voided. Again, the space does exist. He finds it right there. That is a hitch route with the ball on the 14-yard line. It's a hitch route caught on the 7 down to the 1 or 2 yard line, right? Easy execution. The space exists. It is about diagnosing the problem, finding the space. Again, from a recognition standpoint, this is 3rd and goal at the 14. Don't expect pressure all the time from this LSU defense. Don't be surprised when they rush 3 or 4 and get into one of these zone looks. Okay. Moving on a little bit later. Okay. Again, opportunities exist in the system, and they exist on the field. Okay. Here's a man-to-man look to the field. The weak safety is going to rotate. You're getting a man look here from the corner. This linebacker fires, becomes part of the run fit. See it, find your RPO. Again, he takes his single receiver, and this is a hell of a battle for the ball right there, and almost ends up a catch for the offense, I believe. But look at, just again, Ole Miss, they're going to throw hitches. And if you crowd the hitches, they're going to convert them to slants. And right here, if he works his two receiver side, the opportunity to throw the hitch or potentially throw the glance right there, if he throws this post, this glance to the slot on numbers on 0, the space exists there for an explosive play. Now, again, you have to maintain and manage the chaos in the box. They don't do a great job. He has a guy in his face. But I would love to see him work the slot right here because, again, space exists. And I'm just going to keep saying it, not because I'm telling you again that it's easy, but find the space because it's there. It'll be there for Ole Miss on Saturday. Okay. Another example right here. Here, he does a good job. He finds the space in this one, but he misses. They have a great little concept set up right here. Okay. They get both players to miscommunicate and both drive the underneath. He wants to get skinny up this seam, but that ball has to be driven into the seam. The pressure that he gets right here, I don't understand why the offensive tackle does not fan out. He 100% should operate out right there. He doesn't. That's a very simple protection bust right there. But if he does and there's space, this receiver can't continue to work wide. He's got to get his head around and get vertical now and trust his quarterback not to throw him into the backside safety because, again, the space exists. The pressure forces him to airmail the ball. There's another interception that really should not have been an interception. That, again, opportunity for success was there. Okay. Last clip from this game again. Okay. Just the disguise and coverage right here. They're showing you that it's this off man that they've been playing some to the field with him being the free deep player. It's going to change on the snap. They're actually going to rotate him high and they're going to bring him down, I believe. They're going to disguise the coverage right there. And now what they're getting into is just a different variation. They are basically playing, okay, and it's almost like an inverted cover 2 where this corner is going to become the deep half player or deep third player because, again, they've kind of divided the field and how they're going to do their coverage. That means this guy becomes the flat player. They've got a curl player here. He's going to come down to take the first thing inside. He's going to get over the top, and now you have your numbers built out coverage-wise. Okay, here they handle the pressure. He doesn't see the safety coming down and throws it right into the coverage. Okay, this is on I believe that's like a 1st and 5, or no, excuse me, it's a 3rd and 5, right? So this is where you get a little bit more exotic out of that LSU defense, unlike 3rd and long, where it often ends up in a zone coverage. You'll notice I didn't show a ton of clips with teams being overly successful running the football. Teams found space in the run game. There was some success, but I really think that the way you're going to have to beat this LSU football team is getting them going sideways by taking advantage of the space, particularly in the slot and in the middle of the field, and try to get them to loosen that box a little bit because they definitely are going to sell everything out to stop the run. So let's shift focus. Let's go to this LSU offense, okay? They do some really good things. They have personnel that allows them to do some really good things. And they find different ways to get to several different things, okay? Here, making sure I'm looking at my right clip right there. I'm not sure what happened right there. All right, here we go. Here's my clip. This is what I meant to be looking at. All right, so this is something that LSU is going to get to at least twice in the game. They're also going to get to one of their variations for protecting it. And I'm going to show you some of those examples later. Okay, it is essentially a swing screen to the tailback. So he's just going to run a swing route, and you're going to block up the perimeter. Now, teams do it different ways. If they were to stay static right here without any motion, then what you would probably see is a push and crack by the two outside guys with the innermost guy coming around to lead for the tailback. Here, LSU is going to motion the tight end from outside in, and then they're going to, again, redistribute how they're going to protect it. So here's the motion. Get him inside. Ball snapped. Now, there he is. Most dangerous, most dangerous. Escort him around for the corner. Turn and throw the screen to the backside. Now, they put a curl route on the backside. So if numbers don't give him the swing, he has the ability to turn and throw that curl into the boundary. But they are going to throw some variation of this play. I would be willing to bet at least 2, if not more times over the course of a game. Here, you're doing it on like a 2nd and 6. It's an easy call, ends up getting them the first down right there. They're going to do it with guys motioning from other side of the field, just lining up in trips and not motioning. They're going to line 2 guys up in the backfield, and they're going to do it that way. They're going to find a lot of different ways to get to that swing screen concept. Very simple for the quarterback, and with the athletes that they have, gives them a lot of opportunity to find space and grass. Now, this is one of my favorite plays I've seen on film at this point this season. So they have 2 very capable, big body tight ends, one of whom is a major mismatch issue. They're going to play them both on the field at the same time quite a bit. So they're going to get into this very run-heavy look, okay? And teams run variations of a couple things from this type of look, okay? And one thing they like to do is teams get into an RPO where they're going to send the outside guy on a post, the number 2 guy, in this case the tight end that's behind the tackle on the right side of the offense runs a wheel, and the number 3 guy would come behind the line of scrimmage into the flat. And if the end squeezes, the quarterback pulls it, and he's got a nice little flood RPO out there, okay? Here, they're going to window dress that same type of concept, but they're going to do it in a really creative way. They're going to combine power read, so what is typically a quarterback read run game play, and they're going to combine that with the same look as the screen. So what they're going to do is they're going to show the boot. He's going to come down here. He's going to lead out there. He's going to come across. They're trying to show you that it's that RPO. But the tailback is actually going to get back into the vision of the quarterback for a shovel pass. They're going to pull the guard. They're going to read this end. This end squeezes. He's going to throw a screen to the tight end that starts on the left, is coming to the right. If that end is upfield and chases the tight end, he's going to shovel the ball underneath to his running backs. I'm going to let it play out from the wide real quickly, and then we're going to watch it from the end zone copy. So there he is. He is making it look like it's that RPO out on the perimeter. Instead, he finds his running back. It's a nifty little shovel underneath. It's not a huge gain. It's not explosive. But when you talk about being disciplined on defense, this really does a lot to play with your eyes and really can be a difficult read. Now, right here, the end squeezes. So he's thinking, throw to my tight end. But 47 does a great job getting over the top. So he knows my bailout is my running back. He finds him. It's really a nice little underhanded pitch he gives him right there. And, Clemson does a nice job against it. But that is a really tough design that really forces you to play discipline on defense. This is one thing that LSU started doing a lot last year. It is blown up in college football and the NFL this year. They're going to take one of their receivers and they're going to motion him back behind the quarterback. Most of the time when you do that, he's going to continue going and he's going to run a swing route. What they're going to do here is they're going to actually bring him downhill in the run game. They're going to take their tailback and they're going to run counter, which normally you would run with a pulling guard and then a tight end or sniffer that leads on the backer. They're going to use the running back as the lead blocker now, and the wide receiver becomes the running back right here. So I'm going to play it one time from the wide, then we'll go to the end zone copy. Bring him in motion behind, snap the ball. It allows you to gain an extra hat. Clemson should have this play pretty well defended. they technically have the bodies to kind of match the count right here. The motion is going to force a little bit of a coverage adjustment, but now they're able to double team back, block back, pull him. He is either going to double here or base here, or he's going to arc to number 6. Tailback is going to lead on 47, and now you can account for everybody in the box. Here comes the motion. That means the secondary support now has to adjust. You can see somebody's running with him because Clemson's in a man-to-man coverage. So there's the tight end. He arcs to 47. They kick out with 65. The tailback leads through and ends up, the defensive tackle comes unblocked. He wins, but the tailback's able to kind of clean up the trash, and the receiver's athletic enough to get himself on the outside and to the perimeter. It is taking a very simple A1 day one run scheme, window dressing it to get an extra hat and to get the ball in the hands of a playmaker. Here, LSU is going to start. They're going to start with their tight end out wide, and they are going to motion him into the formation. They are a heavy outside zone run team. They are going to run a ton of outside zone. So here they're going to motion the tight end in. They're trying to get an indicator of what the coverage is. Right now they are seeing man-to-man with the deep safety, so he's expecting cover 1. Right now, Nuss knows there's nobody in my glance window, so if my receiver can win the one-on-one slant right there, he is going to throw this football. If anybody pops up, if this linebacker were wider, if the safety were down, if anything pops in that window, that means the math should equate for the run box. So he's going to hand the ball off. Here, nothing's in the window. Easy pull, throw, catch. Their receivers are big. They're physical. They make a guy miss. Turns into an easy throw and catch for a first down. Again, he brings the tight end down to account for the extra defender. He knows right now, boom, ride, rip, easy throw and catch. Ole Miss is going to have to do a great job defending outside zone as a run scheme, but they're going to have to be sound in the secondary to make sure they can account for these RPO slants that they like to throw as an offense. Okay, this has been a popular scheme in recent years. They're going to window dress it here by taking their second tight end and bringing him across and getting him out into a route. So they're going to fake the ball to the running back here, and he is going to release through B gap into a wheel route. This receiver on the backside is going to run some type of a crossing route to try and draw the coverage and take everybody with him. And the tight end is going to block down. He's going to show run, 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 and then he's going to leak flat and end up here. So the quarterback is out his fake. He's going to come and he's going to show eyes, and he wants you to think that he's working to the wide side of the field. He's going to look back, and he is thinking really 1 to 2 from his tailback on that wheel route down to his tight end on what they typically, most people call a leak. So there's the play action. Pull a guard to try and influence the linebackers. You see the tight end is kind of half-ass blocking right there. Receivers trying to clear everything out of there. Go take that safety. There goes the running back. Now Clemson does a great job right here. Okay, the corner stays put. He collects this wheel route. The ball has to come back down to the tight end. Now the pressure and the stunt by the defensive end ends up coming free and ends up being a sack on Nussmeier right here. But you can see if it's clean, he ends up throwing the ball here to the numbers to the tight end with room to run and one guy trying to get there in close space. You know, I said earlier, and you talked about this offensive line, they sometimes struggle with movement. This is a good example right here. You can see 75 just really kind of gets chucked down, and the puller 51 overruns him, checks him, doesn't get to him, and they're able to chase him down and get the sack. Last play from this game. I showed you earlier how they threw the swing screen to the tailback. They did it earlier. They had number 10 out here. They motioned him in, and then he led back outside. Well, here they're just starting 10 at the bottom. They're going to motion him across, and they're going to make it look like the same screen that it was a minute ago. But when you have plays like this in your system, one thing you have to do is you have to protect those plays. You can't always run the same thing You have to find ways to slow the defense down. Georgia actually ran this against Ole Miss with success last year in that game in Oxford. So they're going to make it look the same, but this receiver, his split is tighter than it was. He was out here last time, and the other guy was out here. Okay. They've gotten tighter for a reason. He's going to kind of delay and act like he's blocking. They're going to swing the tailback. They're going to lead the tight end. They're going to do all the things to make you think they're throwing that swing out there. But the reality is they're going to release uncovered linemen, and they're going to hit this guy back underneath on a little shallow screen. So you're Ole Miss, you're preparing to stop it. There's the delay, there's the leak. Easy throw and catch, easy screen, elite athlete in space, right? I mean, they threw a negative route right there. This is a second and long. So let me see the sticks. You're looking at like a 2nd and 20. Easy screen, and he turns it into a first down and beyond, right? A 35, 36-yard gain. Okay, so you got to be disciplined. You got to have great eyes, but you also have to do the little things like recognize why in the hell is his split so tight? It's normally not that tight, but he has to be tight for this screen to get there so that he can get to his landmark and they can be effective. So a couple more clips to show you, then we'll wrap this thing up. Okay, this is that same LSU offense, but now against a Florida defense. A Florida defense that does a lot of things in the playbook that are similar structurally to what Ole Miss likes to do defensively. So here they are in a 10 personnel set. So they're 4 wide. There's no tight end attached to the system. And here's the outside zone that they love so much. Now, Nuss flat out misses this. What he should be reading right here is this backer. And as soon as he fits the run, he should be throwing that ball right there to the tight end. If this safety were over the tight end, then the ball would come outside to this in-breaking route right here, okay? Instead, he hands the ball off. It turns into a decent gain, but you can see the easy read right there that he just misses that easily could have been a big play for this offense, okay? So, he will make some misses. They like to get it empty. This is an example of it. Again, tight end is up top now. They like putting him all the way out wide. They will motion him in at times. But what they're really trying to do, again, is it man-to-man or zone? Because if you take a linebacker and push him all the way out there, or a safety, push him all the way out there with a tight end, it is a heavy man-to-man indicator. If it's something else, if it's zone, then you're probably getting one of your better receivers, more athletic guys, matched up on a linebacker, okay? Here, they're going to motion the tailback back into the backfield again. Again, looking for simple RPO. Or in this case, simple quick game concept. Okay? Here it is, ball's middle of the field. Florida just negates it. They try to drop the defensive lineman into coverage. Very similar to concept as to what we saw earlier of the previous play. Here in the drop back game, Nuss sees it and absolutely puts it on a dime. And this is why the NFL scouts like him. And I'm going to show you one here in a minute that is really a hell of a throw. But here, he recognizes what's coming. He changes his protection. He knows what pressure's coming. He knows where the ball needs to go. He gets his feet in the ground and just puts it right where it needs to be, right over the hands of the drop-in defensive lineman before the safety from the weak side can get there. Just nice execution. Okay. All right. Come back to that same swing screen. Okay. This is one of the ways they like to run it. They motion this guy out now to go be the lead blocker. Here's your tailback that you're throwing the swing to. Okay. So now they come back here, and instead of throwing the swing to zero right there, they're going to fake it. This is another way they protect it because, again, they're going to throw the swing screen. So now here they're going to release him inside and vertical. 10 is going to hesitate, and he's going to got to get into this late wheel route. Okay, so they're going to fake this swing and now get into a vertical instead of getting into a shallow. Now, Florida does a pretty good job of covering it up. Everything is covered. The protection is actually not great. They get pressure, but if you leave the thing, and here's the thing, we can talk about the past 2 quarterbacks Ole Miss has played and how athletic we are. This is the one thing I would say about the Ole Miss defense last week is there were times where they allowed Tulane's quarterback to get out of the pocket and scramble, in particular when he stepped up in the pocket and escaped and get into some positive yards. And Nuss has the ability to do that. Obviously, you see it here. Now, it gets called back because of a holding call right there by the offensive lineman, but he does a good job of getting forward right there and taking advantage of what exists when you allow him to. Okay. This is a throw that I was kind of talking about a minute ago. This is a risky throw, but this is an absolute dime of a throw. Okay. They're going to get into a passing situation right here. It's really a 1st and 10, and he recognizes what's going on coverage wise. It is a 2-man. And so cover 2-man. So it's all man to man underneath. And the safeties are now working off the hash, reading the quarterback's eyes. And when I show you this from the end zone copy,
he's looking at number one waves for it right away.
Oh, he does. What he sees right here is the safeties are working off the hash. So he starts left. He knows now for sure what the coverage is. But this boundary safety is working off the hash. He comes back to it, realizes the safety's out of position, and he throws this ball. It's damn near a perfect throw. It's dropped, but it's damn. I mean, it hits him in the hands. It is the only thing you could tell him if you wanted to be picky to throw it any better is to throw it right there at the back of your own receiver's head. But he throws it right where the DB can't see it, and one just flat out drops it. Maybe the most impressive thing about the throw is if you watch him mechanically, he's ready to throw, then he's not, and he kind of has to move off his spot, and he doesn't really get settled. So he throws this off his back foot without a lot of rotation, which typically is going to reduce accuracy, but he rips this ball in here right where it needs to be, and it is just barely a miss. You know, if his feet are active, if he's got a little bit more of a clean pocket, I'd like to know if he tries to put the ball over the top or if he drives it a little bit more true back shoulder. But I watched this throw like 5 or 6 times today, thinking to myself, one, this should be holding on the tackle.
Yeah.
Because I do think their right tackle is their biggest missing. Like he's the worst in pass protection. You can attack him with speed and edge off the perimeter. So note that for Saturday. Okay. But just a hell of a throw and really extreme ball placement right there. Last one right here. Okay. Another kind of off platform, really good throw right here. And they're just going to get into this Y cross concept. So he's going to start his eyes here on 14. They're going to mesh across. You've got this post. If 14 comes down and nobody gets over the top of the post, you're going to take it. Otherwise, you're going to come back and you're going to work your crossing route matched up on the safety. So as they get into the fake here, 14 shows like he's coming down and then immediately becomes a post player. So now that boundary safety vacates. He knows right now, find my crosser. It's not a bad route. And when you look at this from the end zone, into the fake. Now, this is an off-platform throw is what we would call this. And what we mean by that is he's not really able to set his feet cleanly in the pocket. He is falling backwards right here because, again, here's the rush. They win. But this is an off-platform, falling backwards, off my right foot. I want my hips pointed here where I'm throwing it, and I want to be able to step into it and throw this football. When he actually throws it, his hips are pointed here. This is all arm, and the ball placement and the accuracy right here is absolutely elite. I mean, the reality is to be a perfect throw, that ball needs to be about 2 feet to the right. But from a mechanical standpoint, with his hips facing this way and his body going backwards, the ball is going to lag. So this is truly one hell of a throw. And it's a really nice play by the safety to break it up because otherwise that is absolutely a highlight reel throw for the quarterback. So I see what people see when they talk about the potential and the ability and the what the kid has the ability to do. What they haven't done, I think, to this point is seen the production, particularly with some of the skill that they brought in They haven't really seen it come to fruition. The opportunity for big play exists. Last year, they found it by attacking the safeties on the Ole Miss secondary. I anticipate very much of the same this year of them trying to attack those safeties. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to how effective can Ole Miss be stopping the outside zone run game with a minimal box structure to allow the secondary to be concerned with the RPO and the passing game. Because if Ole Miss can do that, I think it gives them a chance to be successful. The more Ole Miss has to do to add numbers to the box, the more stress you put on the secondary. And that's where you have to worry about the ability of a Garrett Nussmeier to kind of take the game over.
It's kind of your gut feeling for how it plays out on Saturday.
It's hard to have one, quite honestly.
It's kind of coin toss.
I think it could be. I don't know how good LSU is. They're a good football team.
Yeah.
They're an extremely talented roster. Florida is an extremely talented roster, and it just hadn't clicked yet, right?
Clemson's a talented roster. It just hasn't worked.
Oh, Clemson's a talented roster. Absolutely. It hasn't worked. And so to some degree, how much credit do we give LSU for not allowing those rosters to work in those games? But those rosters haven't necessarily worked outside of those games either. Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard to place a ton of stock in LSU, but it's also ignorant to look at that roster and not say that this is a damn capable roster that can beat anybody, and from an Ole Miss standpoint, questions have been answered, but I don't know how solid some of those answers are right now. Yeah. They're yet to truly have to perform. And yes, they played a talented Arkansas offense, but it is a different style offense from what they're going to see right here. This offense is a completely different beast, and I'm not saying it's better. I think this offense, in some degrees, is much more physical. Now, they're not going to do it by running the quarterback, but they're going to make you defend the whole field, and they're going to try to be more physical at the point of attack, and there's so much opportunity for mismatches with their tight ends in particular. So I think that's going to be a challenge for the Ole Miss defense. I have a lot of faith in Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. to take advantage of some things that LSU is going to do. It's going to be about consistently. This is the biggest test for the offensive line. How do they hold up? And we've seen Simmons have some issue protecting the football. And if Simmons is healthy, can he protect the football against this extremely talented and multiple secondary? If it's Chambliss, he's probably the most athletic quarterback that they faced at this point. How much does their game plan, differ in the way that they would attack a mobile quarterback, and how effective can Ole Miss continue to be, using him as a runner? So I think there's a lot of questions. Either way, it should be a great football game. I certainly think Ole Miss has the opportunity to win this game. I'm not going to be shocked if Ole Miss wins this game, but it's hard to say outright that they're going to walk out of Vaught-Hemingway with a victory.
Should be a fun one. Ole Miss off. Ole Miss off next week, so no Pete's Pigskin preview. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll get you ready for Ole Miss and Washington State at home. That's the last of this homestand. 4 games before the Rebels head to Athens and then to Norman for a daunting 2-game road trip for Ole Miss. So for Pete Deweese, I'm Neil McCready. Until next time, that does it for this edition of Pete's Pigskin Preview presented by Riverland Roofing. Hope everyone has a great, safe weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.